Mythic Spoiler is pretty good.
You want Mythic Spoiler?
That was pretty easy to read.
We'll try Mythic Spoiler. Brad said he's a fan of Mythic Spoilers. We'll try that. I use MTG Salvation. They're all the same. They're just spoiler sites. Wait, this isn't color coded. Can I? Oh, I can do it color by color. Okay. I'm down for this then. Alright, so we're going to kind of... Yeah, Joe, you can go ahead and post a link to Gather. That's fine. We're going to do a card by card for these. Let's go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. Right? So we're going to talk about more of the archetypes that are in each one than necessarily each individual card. Right? We know that cards like Elishnor and Iona are very powerful, etc., and you'd be happy to take them. But in Modern Masters, the first one, it was a lot about the synergy of decks that was happening. And I'm assuming it's going to be very similar here as well. Right? So we're looking for the different decks. Now, there is a wide deck. There's a wide red-white deck and a wide green-white deck. And Elishnor is the capstone of those decks right there. We'll see as we keep going through it, right? We can play more controlling decks that play something like Battle Grace, Angel a little easier. Cards like Indomitable Angel, Archangel are going to your Metalcraft deck. And you'll see that as we keep going through here. Some of these cards are just made to get out, right? Daybreak Coronet doesn't really have a deck around it, per se. But it's a card they wanted to get out that is quite pricey. We have a lot of good creatures. Smaller creatures. There's a build-on theme, not with the Daybreak, but there will be some equipment later on. And Mirran Crusader plays very, very well into that strategy. Because the double strike and the ability to have protection from 2 creatures. Mirror Entity goes into more of a wide theme. Where you can play more creatures, and they'll get bigger when you pay the X, right? It's very strong. Some cards, like Celestial Purge, they just want to reprint right there. It's interesting that they reprinted this, being that there's not one of these effects for each color. The Metalcraft deck is very obvious. It's one of the more apparent themes as you keep looking. But cards like Spectral Procession go into that green-white wide theme. And there's crossover, right? Mir Smith goes into kind of a wide white theme with the artifacts. You're making more artifacts as you keep doing stuff, which helps enable Battlecry pretty quickly. There is a equipment theme. You can play Core Duelist in it. I'm not sure how good that deck looks. We need to look at the red and the white to kind of see that. And there's also a Spirit theme, where you can play kind of this Arcane Spirit deck. It's a little bit more Soul Shift than last time, I think. I don't have to double check. That said, like cards like Akari, you don't have to be in the Soul Shift deck for it to be good. Or the Spirit deck. It's just a 4/4 flyer for 5, which is fine. As opposed to cards like Core Duelist, which I won't play outside of the specific deck that they go in.
Yeah, I also noticed they printed Leyline of Sanctity, but I don't think they printed any of the rest of them. It's
right.
Kind of homage to how expensive that one's gotten.
And there's a lot of cards like that. You'll see them at Rare, or some of them at Common, cards like Celestial Purge. Celestial Purge will have effects on the format, by the way.
Oh, is it actually expensive?
Oh, Jill, tell us we're wrong. That Purge, Flash Freeze, Yeti, Deathmark, and Combust. Okay. Wow. Okay, so there's one of each. Celestial Purge, Flash Freeze, Deathmark, and Combust all see play. Yeti is probably the worst of the bunch for that per se. But Yeti's probably the one I'm most likely to play main board because it actually has an effect regardless. Alright. Yeah. I didn't realize that. I haven't looked through... I glanced through the spoiler, but I didn't really take the time to look through it. Alright.
Let's see. What else is there of note?
Well, cards like Oblivion Ring are of note. Oblivion Ring is stronger than usual, right? We were just playing in a set where there weren't many bombs. We got killed by Exalted Dragon. One of the strongest white creature there is, and it's not very good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hitters. There's a lot of beefy dudes here, so Oblivion Ring is a higher pick than normal. I don't think that the equip deck is all that good, and we're going to go over to the equipments real quick so I can show you why. Those are planeswalkers. Those are lands. There we go. Equipments that are good is what we're looking for. Sunforger is good. It's very good. It's rare, so you have to open it up, and it's a little tougher to get. Uncommons that are good in your equipment deck, cranial plating can be okay, but you need at least 6 other artifacts, which aren't too hard to get.
I mean, just,
but it's an
just
uncommon
a couple. You know, wouldn't be too much because you're probably not going to draw them with cranial plating. But 3 or 4 starts getting okay. 6 starts getting really good.
Yeah, it's better than Darksteel Axe, which is also an uncommon. Like, this just isn't the effect that you want to do to be getting it. So we've got a good rare one, a good uncommon one, and the Mortarpod is another good uncommon card.
Darksteel Axe is a really good rate, though. 1 to play, 2 to equip.
It's an okay rate, but everyone else is doing more powerful things. So when you're doing things like Flare Husk, Copper Carapace, you're not really keeping ahead. Sickle Slicer, which is a fine creature to play with an upside later, I'd be happy to play maybe 1 or 2. You can play as many of these as you want, 3 mana 2/2s, and then later they kind of build into a creature, which seems nice, but I don't think that the equipment deck is there. None of these equipments are pushing me. I don't see any swords. I don't see anything overtly powerful. I do see a deck that wants me to run a couple of red and white spells, but you're only going to have like 3, maybe 4 in your deck because of the amount of non-creature slots you have. So Cranial Plating is the best one you have, followed by Mortarpod. And these cards are fine, but people are aggressively picking up Cranial Plating for your Metalcraft deck. Every deck wants to play Mortarpod. It goes in every single deck. So you have a lot of competition.
That's true. So there might not be an equipment deck, but there might be a Metalcraft deck.
There is a Metalcraft deck, and there's supposed to be an equipment deck. There's a Metalcraft deck. It falls into red and white, so you'll be playing some combination. But just know that when you play equipment-based cards like Sunspear, Shikari, right? You're playing it for 2/2 for 2 that sometimes has these effects, not because you expect to get these equipment effects. Or if you're playing...
You might like cats also. That could be it.
Yeah, Core Duelist is not a card I think is playable because of the relative weakness of the equipment. Sure, it will be starts where you play your Core Duelist and you put on your Darksteel Axe and you go to town. That'll be less than normal. I think that red-white equipment is the weakest dark types, and I also think red-white Metalcraft is one of the weaker ones too. Although Metalcraft is much more playable. Cards like Arrest, obviously very strong. You can't depend on Arrest to make it so you can't lose the game, though. There are a lot of unique strategies in Modern Masters. This is an advanced level set. Apostle's Blessing is a card you shouldn't underestimate. This line of artifact is quite potent, right? It's one of the only cards in the game that gives protection from artifacts. Very strong. We see the kind of Convoke spells. This is going to go into a sort of a green-white Slanesia clan, and it's going to be going wide. Gaining that life for your creature is, tap 4 of your creatures, you gain 5 life. You only paid 3 or 4 mana for this. It can be very strong. I think it's one of the better commons. But you have to build a deck around it. Not too hard to build that deck around it. We see some of the arcane cards over here that are okay. Protects your creatures or gets rid of effects on your opponent's creatures. Just makes them stronger. We see some Soul Shift. I'm not sure how good Soul Shift is going to be. Soul Shift is a very grindy, slow mechanic that really depends on you making a cohesive deck. I'm not sure if there's enough Soul Shift for it. We have aggressive cards like Mighty Leap, which also can be defensive, but mostly aggressive. Happy to have Sunlance in here. Good white removal is hard to come by. Overall, I think white is a very aggressive color this set, which is unusual. Like, we have a really aggressive white deck. The blue deck has some very expensive cards in it we'd be very happy to see, right? Click and Cryptic Command are some of the pricier cards out there, but they're good. Argent Sphinx is an excellent Metalcraft creature. I think we see a little bit of Metalcraft in all the colors but green, I think. I'll have to double check on green.
Null Drifter's a good card.
Yeah, the thing about these cards is you can feel safe picking them because the strength's there to back them up. Maybe not a card like Guile per se, but a 6/6 for 6 that can only be blocked by 3 or more creatures is fine. It's not where you want to be. No, I don't want to go with that color. Some cards like Hurkyl's Recall are very good sideboard cards, but they're sideboard cards that are usually worth some amount of money. Hurkyl's Recall is not, so you can't really pick that card aggressively. But some of the other sideboard cards you can pick up as value picks, and you'll see us do that when we draft Modern Masters.
Actually, I think Hurkyl's Recall on MTGO is worth something, but not in paper.
Oh.
So,
Let's see. check. How do you spell Hercules Recall? Hercules Recall.
Just click one of them. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So paper, you want the MTGO price though. So
Yeah, that's why I was trying to find the right right version. There's not a 10th. Is it revised? There's not a revised. It's Antiquities.
oh, okay. Yeah.
No.
No, still don't show the MTGO price.
Hercules?
There it is.
Hercules Recall is a $10 card?
No, a $21 card.
It's a $10 paper card. I have like 4 of these in my house. That's
That
crazy.
seems wrong because there's other versions. Oh, it might have started going up. I don't know.
People are playing more vintage. Okay, that's nifty. Anyway, you can pick up sideboard cards that are very good in the match that pay for your draft that are also like really
Especially
good.
online.
Yeah. Inexorable Tide is building around this blue-black. There's a blue-black kind of moderate counters matters theme. There's also the possibility of playing with the counters with artifacts. I don't think this is a good card to go in early, but it's a fine card if it wheels. This is going into some sort of aggro control deck, right? It's a fun card to play around. I'm not sure how strong it is. A lot of these cards really are hard to judge until you're playing in the format. I know you can build decks around this. When it originally came out, I was able to do that rarely in Rise of Eldrazi. It was a fun deck. If that same deck exists, you're just keeping them off tempo, off balance. It really depends on how many bounce spells and cards like Remand you have. It's a potent combination right here. Flash Freeze, again, just like Joe was saying, the cycle, 1 each. Powerful sideboard cards that see some amount of modern play with the exception of the Yeti. Mold Drifter is probably a card I'd pick over any of these other cards unless I was picking for money. I think it's more powerful than any of these other cards. I might pick
Even
Cryptic.
Cryptic?
Cryptic costs triple blue.
That's true. You'd
This
have
is
to
the
be very
closest card. Click is very good too, as is Tezzeret. I don't know. I'd probably take Tezzeret over.
Well, since we'll be taking for money too, we'd take the rares and mythics, but
Water Servant's a fairly impressive card. A lot of these cards are pretty strong. Now, I don't like Graft. I don't think that the Graft deck will be particularly good. You know, it looks like it's playing with the Inexorable Tide to build this deck of incremental counters in your blue-green Graft deck. I don't think that's going to come together. Graft tended to be a very slow mechanic the first time it came out, and often you don't have time for that.
I agree.
It is a bigger set, right? Blue-green is usually big guys and evasion, and Graft plays well into that. I just don't think it's going to hold up to things like Cumulox, right, with affinity for artifacts, or, you know, this deck that's playing Metalcraft or Cryptic Commands, like the controlling black-green deck is probably also pushing forward on that. Elementals. There's a blue-red Elementals deck. We'll see more of the enablers in red. But the fact that you have some of the powerful elemental effects and cards like Water Servant and Aether Sight and Air Servant and Cloud Elemental, these elementals are all fine cards on their own, and when you can enable them a little bit, speed them out, make them a little stronger, it becomes quite potent. We have more cards to go in the artifact deck, draft deck. You can see that it's a little bit on rails. That's how the Modern Masters often play out. Is more powerful, somewhere between a cube feel and a draft feel, and they really support these archetypes.
Yeah, Air Servant's really good. That's a very high pick.
Yes, Air Servant is a very high pick.
It dominates the skies. Always a good thing in a card.
Right, and can play defensive too, right? If your opponent has a bigger creature, you can tap it down, attack them. For 5 mana, you're getting a lot. You're getting a lot of damage, and you're getting a lot of protection against other flying cards. We have cards like Narcolepsy and Repeal, which are very strong cards for answering other things, which is important because you're going to see big creatures later. The fact that they have Narcolepsy at common makes blue pretty potent. Repeal,
Like common too.
yeah, Repeal deals with a lot of tokens and smaller creatures. Mana Leak to help push through. I really like how blue looks. We've got things like Steady Progress is a card.
I like Telling Time.
Telling Time is the one I like.
Vapor Snag is great. They've got some very strong commons.
Yeah, the only one that I'm not really that impressed with is the Vigian, Graph Mage, and Wings of Velasvel. The rest of these are pretty good.
That's the cycle, right? They put all the troubles in there.
Did they?
I think they did. I know they put at least 2 of them.
They put the white one in?
I didn't see it, but I thought I saw the black one on the spoiler last time. Maybe I'm wrong.
Let's see if they put the white.
The white one is my favorite.
There's a Spirit Arcane deck. I don't think they did. I think that they...
Oh, so they just put part of that cycle in there?
Because it's part of the elemental cycle. Well, they have a changeling here. So it looks like we have a little bit layover, but
maybe there's just a changeling in every color then. And some of them are spells.
Yeah. There's a lot of tribal synergies going around. Alright, so here we have black. No. None of these cards, I don't think. The -1/-1 counters is a theme in black-blue, by the way. That's the sort of -1/-1 Inexorable Tide-esque deck. You see it a lot more in black than in blue, but the blue has the enablers with proliferate more so. We have an aggressive black deck. I don't know where that aggressive black deck's at. Is it just it's just an aggressive black deck.
I like Dismember.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since that was printed.
Cards like Devouring Greed are underwhelming. You may sacrifice a number of spirits. You drain 2 for each spirit. It's an enabler for your Soul Shift deck, for your black-green one, but I'm just not impressed with it either. I think that a lot of these cards, hopefully we're just underestimating them. Right?
Well, so a lot of Modern Masters is the synergy as opposed to the raw power of cards, but then there's some very raw, powerful cards. It's a really weird set to draft, or at least it was last time.
So, interestingly, we have Dread Drone here, right, which is one of the flex cards. Black isn't a big mana color in this set, but with Dread Drone, you can have multiple tokens, you can have ramp, you can explode and things. You can now play black in your deck. I don't think people are going to be picking up Dread Drones a lot, because they don't do that many things. Dread Drone combos with a couple cards like Bone Splinters and Bloodthorn Vampire, but for the most part, it's not that great. It's not really pushing forward much. And here we go. We've got cards like Instill Infection, which don't look that good at first blush, but in that blue, black, Inexorable Tide deck where they can make multiple things go on it, you can put 1 or 2 out in your control deck. So you're looking for things to kind of push through or hold off early damage.
Nameless Inversion is really good.
We
One of
have-
the best removals in the set, probably.
It probably is. Nameless Inversion and Ghostly Changeling are cards that are flexible, too. They go over multiple types. You can put it in your elemental deck. If you got your blue-red elemental deck and you've got a couple Nameless Inversions and a Ghostly Changeling, well, now your Flame Braiders are doing a little bit more work. Cards like Vampire Outcast are just purely strong. Being able to play 4 for a 4/4 lifelink is great. We can play a black card in the tokens deck. There are some token effects going on. This card's made to go more so in the
Man, you're tired.
Yeah, I know, right? The Scape Shift deck? Not the Scape Shift deck. Yeah, the Scape Shift deck. No, the Soul Shift deck. But it can also play double duty in your tokens deck or your black tokens deck. You've got a couple hate cards right here. Sickle Ripper is another one of those cards that's your early card to go into your defensive black-blue deck. And apparently there's an aggressive theme. I don't know. How many aggressive cards are there? 1, 2... 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so there is a black aggressive deck. It needs another color to go with it. I guess you could play a black-white aggressive, or each color pairing is supposed to be doing something. And I guess for black-white, I would be just playing a general aggressive deck, kind of a whitish one. So red's got some cool cards going on in it. Again, the rares here are just representing usually a lot of value. Cards like Thunderblast, I would not be happy to first pick. Because they're not worth much and they don't do much, right? They don't have a big upside. Whereas the card like Kiki Jiki has a very big upside. Now, they did not include the infinite combo this time, did they?
I don't think they did.
It's non-legendary. I mean, Bull Drifter's nice, but you don't instantly win the game. Aether Snipe's nice, but you don't instantly win the game.
Yeah, they didn't put anything in there like that this time.
In fact, there's only 2. There's only 2 cards I'd be happy to even target.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some small creatures that you could, attack with, but...
Sure, but I'm looking for things that are, like, really exciting.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be a Splinter Twin combo in the deck
No.
that just kills you, so that's good.
Or maybe bad, I don't
They put
know.
Wildfire in the deck. That's pretty neat.
You can play a very controlling red deck. Red has The controlling side in Wildfire, the very aggressive side. Lightning Bolts in this set, it's an uncommon, which is an appropriate rate for that strong of removal. We have cards like Stormblood Berserker to back it up. Goblin Fireslinger. There's a Bloodthirst deck. It's apparently a black Bloodthirst deck, which is great. Rapid Flames is another strong card. Spite Bellows is a very strong card. So a lot of these red cards hold up on their own.
Yeah, like the Hellcat Charger.
Vishino Slaughtermaster looks like it's a Jund card. It's actually just a red card that if you have black and green has excellent upside. Paying 2 for a 1/1 Double Strike is fine. If you can activate that ability, it's obviously a lot better. There's a big mana theme as well going on here where you can kind of sink a lot of mana in.
There's some more elementals for the elemental deck.
Right, and with the blue and red, you can use these elemental abilities to get out more elementals quickly. Smokebreaker being the key card in that, right? But let's say that you have Smokebreakers and Soulbright, Flamekins, and etc. This can let you play some Eldrazi. We're going to see Eldrazi later on, and you can play a green-red big mana deck. Or you can play your blue-red kind of elemental deck and get these elementals out early. There's a 5-color deck. We've kind of been seeing little bits of it, but something like World Heart Phoenix ties it together. 4 for a 2/2 flying that you can pay 5, and it becomes a 4 or it becomes a 5/5 flying.
Card.
Yeah, which is good. Your 5-color deck is going to probably be green, blue, or green, red base, and then it's going to have a splash for these other cards. We'll see a couple more as we keep going. But something like Smokebreaker can play in this 5-color elemental deck, or you can play green as your base for your 5-color artifact deck. We'll see a little bit more of that as we keep going. Gutshot is in here, which I did not know. That's a very potent card, and that puts a lot of pressure on a lot of the lower toughness cards. It means that cards like Smokebreaker are harder to get out of hand, which is a good thing, I think. We have Elemental Legend, or Lords.
Elemental Lord.
My brain's getting tired. I think after the colors and the stuff, we're gonna call it a quits before my brain explodes.
I was wondering why you thought you could do all this after.
I know, right? After that heartbreaking not drawing a single piece. We had 3 outs the last game.
Well, and we started the game by missing 2 or 3 land drops. So
sometimes you just don't make it. Inner Flame, Igniter. You know, the third time abilities go well into the blue-red elemental deck or the green-red deck as well. We've got more of these cards right here. We're kind of playing into it. I think red is the strongest color we've seen. Red also has 2 of the 5-color abilities. So they really are pushing towards that. I think the green-red is the base of a very powerful 5-color deck. Alright, here we have some of the best cards. An entire set. Primetime, Tarmogoyf, Noble Hierarch are rare cards that will win you the game, right?
Well, and Mythics.
Mythics. When we look at these cards,
I've been waiting for forever to be reprinted.
If we look at these rares right here, will this win me the game? Probably not. Be an okay card in the deck. I can build a card around this, but it's not worth a lot of money. It's a good card, not worth a lot of money. Good card, not worth a lot of money. Good card, okay card, not worth a lot of money. Okay card, not worth a lot of money.
Bust, I don't think it's worth anything. Kiki Jiki's maybe worth $15, $20.
Kiki Jiki's the only good card here, right? We go over to the next set again.
Dark
Bitter Blossom.
Bitter Blossom are both good. They're both worth money.
Dark Confidant's not a good card to play in draft.
Not good in draft?
No, it's too hard to draft a low enough curve. So Bitter Blossom is the only card here that makes me excited and has a lot of money in it, right? When we go to blue, it's a little bit better because Tezzeret, Click, Cryptic are all good and worth money. But I think that's the exception to the rule.
Elish Norn and Iona are probably good, but they're going to be hard to play.
Iona's not
They
good.
are worth money.
The break between 7 and 9 is a big one. I'll be happy to play a 7-drop. I'm rarely playing a 9-drop. It's just not playable. I think Elish Norn is the only one there. But when we went to green...
Primeval Titan, Tarmogoyf,
and Hierarch.
Ant Queen's good too.
Right, we've got 3 money cards that are worth playing. I will play any of these cards in my decks. And these cards are all powerful cards. These are first picks that are worth the money, but first picks that are going to push me forward. Interesting that Overwhelming Stampede's a rare instead of uncommon.
Oh, it used to be an uncommon?
I believe so. This is for the 5-color deck right here. We've got Scoop Mob for this kind of land accelerating deck. Same for Wolfbriar Elemental, right? It can go in the Elemental deck, but it's more so just going into your ramp decks. We have more controlling cards in green with the Algae Grahil. Grail.
Don't know. He's a crocodile.
Crocodiles. We have wide strategies, right? This is going your green, white, wide strategies. The Slanesia deck. Your graph deck. Now, see, the green cards add a lot to this. And that all of these cards are okay on their own. They don't really need a deck around them. The other side has more synergy effects, but just less raw power. And it can be hard to make a deck that's based on synergy. Last time in Modern Masters we saw that, but the overall card quality looks a little lighter here.
Yeah, there seems to be less cards that I really want to pull out of a pack this time too.
Well, I do remember playing in the other one though. You could pick what was it, the Splice deck that was just red, blue, Splice, and it was a bunch of cards you didn't think you wanted, and then your opponent was completely out of cards because they didn't have any cards because you spliced a bunch of terrible cards onto mill cards and they were dead. Capucine Strider is, I think, the strongest of the double color set, the hate sets, right? Just because I'm happy to play a 4-mana 3/4 in my deck. So I don't have to sideboard it. It's pre-sideboarded to be awesome, just like Gelatin was saying. Mutagen Growth and Gut Shot are these two cards you need to be aware of, keenly aware of when you're playing. The fact that at any point your opponent, no matter what their mana state is, can deal 1 damage or add 2 toughness and power in any colors is terrifying. It'll make the format... It'll add a lot of play to the format. Yeah, Gelatin. I remember the first time we played Modern Masters here at Brad's house. He bought a box. I got lucky enough to end up with a Kiki Jiki combo Pestermite deck that had like 4 Pestermites, a Kiki Jiki, and burn spells, and a bunch of those. And I can tell you it was quite potent. I think I lost in the finals to Zach. He's playing some sweet 5-color control deck and he's able to just barely keep me off of it. But it was awesome. It's hard to play around that deck, but it was not fun to play, right? Because you didn't know, do I need to play around conservatively about leaving these things open to try to counter his splicing cards so I don't run out of cards? Or do I need to quickly kill him before he plays Kiki Jiki and a Pestermite, which is also not fun. So, not having these kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't situations. We're not seeing that as much. It's a little bit more conventional.
All right, we've got
Palooka Worm, though. We almost forgot to talk about this guy.
I like that guy.
I love that guy. We also have Root Canali. We've got some beefy green dudes. Kozilek's Predator is one of the best token makers. Kavu Primarch's decent. It's probably the worst green card we've seen in Commune with Nature. Aquastrand Strider. We're seeing some cards that aren't overly powerful, but they're kind of fitting in. This fits in with the Graft theme as well. Nest Invader. Nest Invader and Kozilek's Predator are two of the best creatures here. They're just underrated. They add extra bodies. They can play aggressively while keeping you blockers back, and then they can turn into they can turn those into mana resources. With Kozilek's Predator, you can jump up to 7 the next turn if you want, or you can have 2 pips to add on the mana as you want. The Pestermite's strong, but I don't think you can have Kiki Jiki and Splinter Twin with the Pestermites. I think it's just too much pressure. I think this is a less powerful Modern Masters, which will still be fun. It also gives you more ability to play more different decks. The more powerful those synergistic decks are, the less ability you have to explore. I really felt you couldn't explore in Modern Masters 1, and here I think we'll be able to play any of the 2-color combinations. In Modern Masters 1, there were just 2-color combinations you couldn't play. The 5-color deck, Overwhelm, is powerful in the Convoke deck. We've got some answers.
We've got a Domain spell.
Yeah, there's a Domain deck for sure. How do you feel about Simic Initiate, Brad?
So, I just don't think it's good enough.
I agree with you 100%. This card's just terrible. This is exactly the kind of card I never want to play.
Yeah, there's a lot of cards in the set I don't see myself playing, like
Simic Initiate and Thrive.
Yeah.
I think most other green cards are good. I think green and red had the most amount of cards I wanted to play by themselves. So the thing to take away from that is if synergy doesn't end up being particularly important, red and green will be the best colors. All right, so we've got some multicolored cards.
I think this is just rares or something.
I don't know how this thing works.
I don't know what you're going through now at this point. So
how do I go through multicolored cards? These are artifacts. Where's multicolor?
Well, we already kind of looked at artifacts, so I guess go to the next tab and see what that is.
Well, let's. I guess we should look through these real quick. I don't know if they have multi.
I mean, I'm glad they reprinted Mox Opal. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah,
Edge Champion didn't really need a reprint, I guess.
but it's a powerful card in the middle. It's a marquee first pick. If you can get this card, it's almost unanswerable in the deck, right? We've got these cards.
If you get the Metalcraft, yes.
The Metalcraft deck is very doable. You can do a 5-color Metalcraft deck with Etched Monstrosity and such. You can do a regular aggressive one. We saw a lot of support for it. This goes in this Arcane Spirit deck, which, I guess. I don't think it's that good. The good news is it'll wheel if you want it.
Mm-hmm.
But things like Lodestone Golem, Etched Champion, Lodestone
Spellscout's very powerful.
Spellskite, Precursor Golem. I think the Metalcraft, I think Colorless is the strongest deck. And I think people are going to be hunting to get it. So if it's open, you should take it, but I don't know if there might be enough depth to force it.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong taking so many good creatures.
Like, what are bad art? Let's look at the bad artifacts. That's always determined. Chimeric Mass is not bad. You obviously don't want more than one, but at rare, you're probably not going to get more than one. All the rares look good. I'm happy playing any of these cards other than Long Forgotten Gohi in an actual artifact deck, right?
I think I'm fine with playing most of them as a high pick anyway.
All right, Culling Deus is a little trickier.
Yeah.
I don't think that one goes in it. An Everflowing Chalice, actually, I would be. I think Culling Deus doesn't. The rest of these look fine.
Tumble Magnet seems okay.
Blinding Soul Eater is a common tapper. Like, that's a very, very powerful card.
Yep.
I can stop down Eldrazi all day long.
Cambodian, maybe not.
3 mana 3/3 is not bad.
It's not terrible.
I mean, would you be unhappy playing that card?
I mean,
You wouldn't be excited, but it's fine.
a lot of these cards are okay. So
Alright.
I don't see where the multiplayer is.
Yeah, a multi-guts at the bottom. Thanks, Gelatin, for telling us where those are. Yeah, be safe out there, man. Hopefully, we'll be in a couple days, probably Monday or Tuesday, doing another.
Nope, out of town.
Oh, you're out of
Work.
town?
Yeah.
When are you back in town?
Next Sunday.
Next Sunday. So Mobius Pick will have a week off because we'll be
well,
out.
you can come over here and stream by yourself.
Maybe.
You can see if you can get some people to help you with MTGO.
We might do something Wednesday or there. I might see if we have some other guys like Zach and Zane that are pretty good. We might set something up. If you followed us, it'll tell you when that's happening. If I'm doing something solo, it'll probably happen around 5 or 6. It'll be just a couple hours. It might be a Tempest draft, and it might be live play. We'll kind of decide on that as we keep going. But back on topic, like a lot of these artifacts are just good. I don't think any of them are just terrible. Cards like Rusted Relic seem bad, but if you have enough artifacts, if you're playing almost all artifacts, it's just amazing. Mm-hmm. If you have 4 other, non-land permanent, or 3 other non-land, 2 other non-land permanents, you have a 5/5 for 4.
Yeah, and then the Scourge Manta seems like it only goes in the Sunburst deck, so.
But it's not hard. Let's say you're primarily artifacts with a couple of cards. It's not hard to have, a wide spread of lands and this to be a 3/3 for 5, which, well, in the other set, 3/3 for 5 is fine. Mm-hmm. Not exciting, but when you get that 4/4 for 5 or 5/5 for 5, you were just flying high through the metal sea of Skyreach Mana land. All right, so we said that let's check the lands. Iovugan is a card I would be happy to play, especially in the artifact deck. How many artifacts does it get? We need a colorless creature. So it gets all of the colorless creatures. Eldrazi's in that. That's a high pick. That's amazing. Blink Moths is fine. Eldrazi Temple is a much lower pick. It's an uncommon now. That's interesting. It was originally a rare.
Oh man, they reprinted the bounce lands.
I was going to get to that. Yeah. So we've got Darksteel Citadel, a very high pick for that. Bobbing Wilds helping fix your lands. All these are good picks except for Eldrazi Temple. Those will come later if you want them. Bounce lands are here. And I've got bad news for anyone that wanted to pick something else first. Your bounce lands are usually your first pick unless you have a bomb. This card's probably better than an Oblivion Ring.
Wow.
I know that sounds like crazy, but the fact of the matter is this represents guaranteed land drops. You want to have... If I could play, I would play 3 in my deck. You won't be able to play 3 uncommon.
Oh wow, they're uncommon stuff.
As they should be. They're very powerful. Is one of the reasons that people remember Ravnica being so powerful. Ravnica original block had very bad commons, very good uncommons, and things like bounce lands and signets at common to kind of accelerate into this really big, strong format. An opening hand of a land and a bounce land is a 3-land, 5-spell hand. How's that sound? That sounds pretty sweet.
Pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, that's some really, really good cards there. And that's the thing about it. At half color, it's always playable in your deck. At double off color, it's still probably completely playable in your deck. I would play a Dimir Aqueduct in my Boros deck. Now, you're probably playing a mid-range or control deck. Aggressive decks don't prefer them as much. If you're thinking that you're in a more aggressive strategy, I wouldn't play one unless it was half on color. Because you really don't need the 2 colorless mana as much. But if I was playing Gruul aggro deck and I had a Boros Garrison, I would probably still pick it up. It's going to add it's going to let you, every 2 bounce lands, you can probably shave a land. Now, I wouldn't shave more than 1 because of how it's usually going to work out. But in original Ravnica, was it unheard of to play something like 15 or 16 lands and 3 or 4 of them being bounce lands? You got to be careful. You can't obviously you're not going to get 4 bounce lands, but if you had 4 bounce lands, you wouldn't cut down to 13 lands because then you could end up with a terrible hand of bounce land, 5 spells. But yeah, these are all first pickable. I will pick rares over it. I pick them over all of these. If I wasn't picking for money, I would pick it over everything except for Etched Champion, probably. That's not true. I would pick Etched Champion, Sunforger, Lodestone Golem over them. Pick it over all of these. I might pick Mortar Pot over it. Yeah. Just to give you a reference of how strong those bounce lands are, they're going to be one of the best opening cards you can have. There's probably not a better card you can have in your opening 7 than that. Can we go back to the original one? Yeah. Just click the top one. He said it was at the bottom. So let's cover the multicolored cards. They're down there.
I guess we should probably color this.
All right. So if you're picking
Why
on,
they reprinted all this dust and Karn.
if you're picking on value, all of these are worth picking.
Yeah, those would be.
If you're picking on, you want to win. So let's say you're going to Vegas. Karn Liberated is pickable.
Well, you're not going to be picking in Vegas. I don't think. I think it's sealed. So maybe day 2
There's side events that are.
Oh, okay.
So you're playing the side events. Karn Liberated and all his dust are actual good picks. That said, if you want to go Eldrazi, if you think that that's a good direction, Kozilek and Ulamog are very castable. You can build a deck that can cast Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn, but that deck is hard to build. The deck that casts Ulamog or Kozilek is not that hard to build. I think I prefer Kozilek to Ulamog usually. The drawing the 4 cards, it just depends on how many answers you have, but you won't know. If you pack 3, you might know, I guess.
Yeah, you might. Alright. So we should be able to find multicolored down here somewhere.
Yeah.
Here we are.
I'm going to start from the bottom and go. Okay.
Yes.
So we've got the cycle of cards that, whenever you cast a spell, you remove. Shoot Howdrings, which are fine. Guild Mages. It's important to notice that the Slaanesh Guild Mage is the best Guild Mage by a lot. So that's one of the reasons that this color combination is powerful. A lot of these dual color cards are powerful. But the trick is, unless you're monocolored, you probably like Restless Apparition. It's not the kind of card, or Hearthfire Hobgoblin, that you can cast outside of your color combination. Hearthfire Hobgoblin goes in a red deck, a white deck, or a red-white deck. You're not playing it in your white-black deck or anyone. You don't want to play triple a color for a card that loses that value. Casting Hearthfire Hobgoblin on turn 6 or 7 is just not good. Yeah. So let's see, how many of each of the colors, the hybrid colors, does each hybrid color get some?
It seems every hybrid color gets some. Now, I'm not sure if they're even numbers.
True. Or is it?
Well, there's no repeats here. Is that? Oh, yeah, that's a repeat.
And that's a repeat. There's 2 green-white ones. There's one of each of the other ones.
One.
Well, that's not the case for all of these, right? You can play your double.
Yeah, they might shore it up with these.
Yeah, they probably do.
I like that they reprinted Wrecking Ball. That was always a fun card.
It's a good card too. You can play Fulminator Mage. You can play Swans. You can play some of like Guild Mage and Dimir Guild Mage. And not a 3-color deck. The ones that are requiring a dedicated 2-color deck are ones with 3 colors, Nick. The Liege, the Gouger, the Hobgoblin, the Noblest, and the Will Leech. It's probably because those ones specifically need more synergy in them. Wrecking Ball is a really solid removal card. It's more than you'd like to pay, but I'm happy with it. Not like Vengeful Rebirth, which is technically a 2-for-1, but it's kind of sketchy. I played my big green-red deck. That's where it goes. The cards kind of just automatically fit in the deck they go in. Like, when you look at these colors, these aren't first picks. I wouldn't first pick any of these. You need to make sure the combo's open. But
Yeah,
that's not
much.
true. Electrolyze might be worth first picking. Electrolyze and Shadow Mage Infiltrator. Is that new art on Shadow Mage Infiltrator?
I think it is.
That is some sweet art on Shadow
like
Mage
that art.
Infiltrator.
They might have used it before somewhere, but
So, Shadow Mage
Blade
Infiltrator,
Bar Swiftblade.
not nearly a first pick.
No, it's not.
Shadow Mage Infiltrator and Electrolyze I would consider first picking. Because they're kind of splashable. I would not first pick.
Apocalypse Hydra might be worth first picking.
It is powerful. I think the only ones I would consider are Electrolyze, Shadow Mage Infiltrator, and maybe Apocalypse Hydra. I think the rest of these are too much of a color commitment for what they offer.
Oh, I like the reprinted Mystic Snake.
Yeah.
I think that's all of them. New Mizzet's really powerful.
I don't want to go
There's
that
not
deep.
really very many There's not very many cards that just make him unbearably
I don't want to go that far
good.
into it, right? I mean, like, I guess the point I was going to make is wrong, though, because I'm not splashing Shadow Mage Infiltrator in my blue-red deck for a black. Like, and I'm not doing that for Electrolyze either. Apocalypse Hydra looks like the only splashable one, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
I think the rest of these are just
I
low
mean,
enough
you might
cost.
splash for Wrecking Ball, but
I might splash for Pilly of the Sleepless, which looks to have a new art, Wrecking Ball, Savage Twister, Vengeful Rebirth, the more expensive cards, because you get more out of them later, right? Splashing for your Signal Blessing is not doing too terribly much.
they're real high impact cards is what you want to splash for. But I don't know. I generally don't play more than 2 colors, though. This set seems to be making it easy with bounce lands. So
Well, just like in the last Modern Masters, you could play 5-color green. That was actually just base 2 colors and splash for some very, very powerful cards. I think the biggest thing to take away from here is that Modern Masters 2015, Modern Masters 2, is less powerful cards, less powerful synergies. And what that lets you do is play more decks. I don't feel
That's a
like
good point.
any of these decks will just kill me outright.
Yeah, there were some fairy shenanigans in the last Modern Masters that it was hard to deal with once they got it online.
Yeah, there were fairy decks that were hard to beat. The Metalcraft deck was hard. The Affinity deck was hard to beat. The Pestermite deck, the Splicing deck. These decks had a lot of potent cards, and you needed to have another strong thing to get through them. Your Dredge deck, all of these decks, there were cool outlying decks that you just never really got to play due to the strength of the format. I think that there are strong decks here. You've got your green-white cards and stuff, but you've really got to commit. I don't want to commit first pick to Wilt Leaf Liege.
Yeah.
If I don't play it, I don't want, I would over other bad cards. If there wasn't any other decent cards, I would pick it if there wasn't a solid other pick.
What about the Swans? What do you think of that one?
There's no cards in here to abuse Swans. There's not Seismic Assault. This is more of an aggressive blue-white card. It's blue or white, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, you could just try to beat them down with it.
You can, 4/4, 4/3. It can work well. It's a card I usually start in my board. If you're blue-red or white-red, it can work a little bit better in that you can get damage off of it. It's a harder card to kill, usually. If you're trying to race, if you're just putting a lot of pressure on, this can help. Or if you have ways to power it up, if you have cards that can go on top of it, or something like a Mortarpods, you can sacrifice it in response. It can be pretty good. By itself, it didn't see much play the first time. It's just really hard to give your opponent that much card advantage. But it's one that you can aggressively bring out of sideboards, especially if they don't have flyers. Just a 4-mana 4/3 is great. A lot of these cards have that power. I don't know. So let's compare all of these cards to, we'll say we have Oblivion Ring, and what's a really good black removal as well? We'll say we have Oblivion Ring, Lightning Bolt, and Nameless Inversion in the pack, and we open a rare. And if we would take the rare over any of those colors, so it's the off colors. So what we're really looking at is how good is this rare? Is this rare worth picking over really good removal? I guess we should start with the multicolors. The multicolors are normally going to be no. I don't think I would pick any of these multicolored rares
over solid removal.
Over the Lightning Bolt, Nameless Inversion, Oblivion Ring pack, right? We have our choice. So it's not in color. It's, whatever color is there. Do you think you would take any of these cards over that?
Probably not.
Just tell me when you see a card.
They're all pretty net. Well, I mean, you would take the really expensive cards, I guess, if you wanted to go for money. But other than that,
yeah, we're gonna ignore money concerns. I mean, obviously,
ignoring money. Yeah, probably not.
All right, so I still they're too expensive. Is the problem with these guys right here?
I mean, Etched Champion, you might.
I was thinking that too. As Etched Champion's the first card I would probably take it. I would probably take Etched Champion and maybe Lodestone Golem over them.
I don't know if I'd even take Lodestone Golem over a Lightning Bolt, say.
Yeah,
first pick.
Yeah, one of the best removal spells. We have Etched Champion, Lodestone Golem. Let's see if there's any much else. I don't think I would take Sun Forger.
I mean, Spellskite might be worth taking over those removal spells, just because it redirects to itself.
Yeah, but it doesn't win you the game. It just also loses to multiple creatures.
Yeah. So
maybe Mortapod, maybe not. I'm back and forth on that.
Well, it's not a rare, so.
Well, I mean, I'm just looking at cards in general.
Oh, I don't.
For those that haven't played Mortapod, it matters a lot on the number of 1 toughness creatures. It's very good in the first set that it came out, Scars Block, but there were a lot of 1 toughness creatures. If it has that same potency, it can buy you a lot of 2-for-1s and trades favorably, especially in other decks. But let's see. Cheap guaranteed 2-for-1s is what I mostly take, or very powerful cards that didn't require a lot of commitment.
Yeah, I mean, if you open that pack, you don't really have very many worries. You've got 3 good removal choices.
Well, you have to choose one. Now, the interesting question is, I think I'm actually picking up the bounce land over that, but I think most people would pick the removal spell.
I probably would pick the removal spell over the bounce land.
Yeah, it's hard to say which way you're going with that. Advantage of the bounce land is, it goes in more decks. It can go in as a colorless deck, etc. The removal is more of an impactful card if you draw it later. This is a better card in your opening hand. If I could get you guys to really think about one thing, it's how good your bounce lands are going to be. Like, when I first told you that I would pick it over a removal spell, Brad probably thought I was kind of crazy. But when you talk about that opening hand, where a land and a bounce land is,
that's really potent.
3 mana, 5 spells guaranteed, and you're probably getting more. It adds a lot more. So here we go. I would pick Elesh Norn over one of those spells. It's powerful enough that I'd be happy to do it. Right?
Yeah, that's fine. What in blue? Maybe the Click. What in blue that's a rare or mythic?
I think I'd actually probably also take Indomitable Archangel. 4/4 flying is fine. It has good abilities. I'd probably take Marian Crusader as well. I think that's probably going to be it. I take Oblivion Stone over Oblivion Stone? Not really. Oblivion Ring, sorry. I would take Tezzeret, Click, Sphinx, and Muldrifter. Wow, I would take a lot of blue cards. I think all those cards are above quality than the other one.
I like the reprinted Remand, but probably not over a great removal spell.
No. But yeah. Muldrifter, I'm back and forth on the Sphinx because it dies specifically to 3 damage things. Mm-hmm. It dies to a lot of the removal. There's the 4 toughness is the key toughness here. But I would definitely take Muldrifter, Click, and Tezzeret, just because Click has the flash. Alright. Is Tezzeret one of the only planeswalkers in this set?
There aren't many.
I think they're just Tezzeret and Karn.
I think so.
Wow. Alright.
Bitter Blossom, probably take that over.
I take Bitter Blossom.
Profane Command's probably pretty powerful.
Yeah, because it is a removal spell. You are committing to the double black, but I think I would take both of those. I'm back and forth.
Dismember is uncommon as well, but it's also one of the best removal spells in the set.
Yeah, we can put that on the removal list. I mean, you can tier your removal list as you like. Dismember is actually probably better than the other ones. It's the best. We can actually make that our new level is, would you take Dismember or this this
Yeah.
card because
I mean-
Dismember's colorless removal.
Iona doesn't die to Dismember, and what? The other white permanent, Elish Norn doesn't,
Yeah.
and Guile doesn't, and that's almost it.
Yeah, it's basically just hard death removal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very close.
Yeah, let's go back to black and look a little bit more. So, I don't think I would take Puppeteer Click, but there's a chance. No, I wouldn't. I don't think I'd take any of these other cards. Almost certainly not, yeah.
Nameless Inversion, another great removal spell.
Yeah, so I didn't think about making
So,
Dismember the standard for removal. It's very good.
It's pretty good.
Alright, I would take Comet Storm over that. I would
Yeah.
take Banefire over that.
Yeah, those are both crazy. Now, would you take a Hellcat Charger over it?
Nope. I wouldn't take this over it. I wouldn't take this over it. I wouldn't take this over it.
So Dismember is pretty much what you want to open. Every pack.
Ow! You know, when you say that, maybe I would take Hellkite Charger. I'm back and forth. I would consider these two cards heavily. They're very easy to build around into powerful decks. Probably not.
There's
Oh,
so
yeah.
few things that Dismember doesn't kill. So
Yeah,
I'd probably take the Charger, but I'd regret it later when I got it Dismembered.
I'd probably take the Wildfire. Well, the good news is the Hellkite Charger does, attack that turn. Your opponent has to have it up, all that kind of stuff. Interestingly,
So I think Wildfire might actually wheel. You might be able to get a second chance at that one.
no.
You don't think so?
No, I think you're underestimating Wildfire greatly. It's a build-around card. It's a first-pick quality. It lets you play a very aggressive deck. It lets you, if you have the bounce lands, bounce one of your lands back and kind of keep in pace there so your bounce lands can tap for more. Or if your opponent's played a bounce land, let's say that your opponent has 3 regular lands and a bounce land and you've got 5 or 6 regular lands, your Wildfire will kill effectively 5 of their lands.
That's true.
It's a very powerful effect. You've got to set it up correctly. But you can build that deck around it, right? The Wildfire's going in that green-red deck usually, by the way. You're just building out.
You
you're
get a
playing-
chance to play that.
Oh,
That'd be
yeah.
fun.
Yeah, you're going to play your turn 5 Wildfire, kill their board, set them at no lands. You have 2 lands. You're doing okay.
Especially if you've played a reasonable amount of creatures, so that you can
Wow.
really cash in on that.
All right, so we've got Burst Lightning, Fiery Fall, Combust, Gut Shot. Red's bringing the heat. Tribal Flames, Spike Bellows, all of those. Lightning Bolt. That's a lot of good removal. I like how Red's looking. All right, green. I would take Primeval Titan over one of those cards. I would not take Tarmogoyf. I would take Wolfbriar Elemental, just because it's actually a lot more value than people think. The fact that it's a 4/4/4 and that's fine, but it's creating multiple bodies. This is actually probably the best by itself creature we've seen.
Just because the upside at 6 mana, the upside at 8 mana, it's
reason
more
you-
and more and more.
The reason you don't remember this card as great is because it came out during Zendikar block and it was in green, which was the worst color and it was mana intensive, so it was not good.
You were never going to get to it in Zendikar, right?
You usually played it as a 4/4 or 5 for a 4/4 and a 2/2, which is great. So here's the thing about it though. It's so good if you can just have 2. If you pay 6 mana, and you have to have 4 green, which is a lot, but if you pay 6 mana, you have 8
8
math
power.
is difficult. Yes, across 3 bodies. Oh gosh, that math is difficult. I might take Bestial Menace over it. Wow.
I don't think I would.
I'm not sure. I mean, I think it's about as good as I think it's a worse version of Muldrifter.
So Bestial Menace is definitely not as good as the Elemental. So
No, definitely not. This is about my breaking point. I'm not sure which way I would go. I might lean towards the Dismember because it's colorless, but it's very close for me. That's where I'm at. Brad is on the other side of the fence. It's a good card, but it's not one he's taking over good removal.
yeah. So Noble Hierarch goes right into the 5-color deck, but I don't know if you want to start trying for that.
Nah, I wouldn't take it early.
Now,
ignoring
as
cost.
far as I'm concerned, they should have printed this card like 3 years ago again, but I'm a little disappointed it took them this long to reprint this. And I'm looking forward to its price going down so I can pick up some.
Yeah, Brett has a... What deck is it that you want to play?
I have Infect. It's played in Modern as well, in most Abzan decks.
So, he's finishing out Legacy, in fact.
Definitely want to have a playset of these. In fact, I'd be okay with having a playset of these online and in paper. Because I wouldn't mind playing several decks that it goes in.
It's a very flexible card. All right. Cytoplast Rootkin, I would be close, but I'm leaning on no rather than yes. Obviously, that's out. Palaka Worm, I'm on no rather than yes, even though it is a very good card. And that has to do with the triple green. If it was a single green in 6, I think I would take it over removal. Because it does come back, but the triple green means that there's a chance I won't play it. And it won't lean me that far in. It is a great card. And the fact that the matter is this card will really get you out a lot of jams.
And I love that it's an uncommon because you might get more than one.
Oh, and the other part about this card too...
and you're okay with 2 of those. That's what's weird.
Oh yeah, this can be the top of your curve. This could be the middle of your curve in your big green deck. Your big green red deck, just like in original Eldrazi, it was an uncommon because creatures could get thick. And, when Palaka Worm's not the biggest creature in your deck, it's kind of scary. I think the rest of these are no's.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rest of those are no's. So it looks like there's not that many cards we would pick over a piece of removal. Which just goes back to this set not having a lot of raw power or crazy synergy.
I'm actually hoping for less synergy because those are just hard to draft.
And
They just make drafting a little bit inaccessible if I'm not going to draft it 20 or so times. If I'm going to draft it 3 or 4 times, I don't want to have to know the synergies before I go into this draft or feel disadvantaged, basically.
Right.
I want it to be I can just draft cards that fit a curve and, a reasonable number of creatures, a reasonable number of spells, and go.
And the other part with this, too, is that the on-rails decks are a little bit more obvious. When you look at the Metalcraft deck, what do you need?
You need Metalcraft creatures. Yeah.
You just need artifacts.
You need Metalcraft stuff, and you need artifacts to enable it.
When you're looking at your token deck in green and white, it becomes kind of obvious what you need. Tokens, right? It's not asking that much. When you play the Spirit Art deck, the decks are kind of dumbed down might be the wrong word, but when you played the old Splice deck, Brad, when you played the Splice deck, do you think you're going to be picking up aggressively mill Splice cards and burn Splice cards in the same deck? That's not usually a deck you want to build.
Yeah, see, I never played the Splice deck. It seemed like it would never work.
And it worked very, very well. It was just awkward to have to know to build it that way. Or the Dredge deck, which was a little bit more complicated. You kind of had to have an understanding, which is fine if there's 1 or 2 of those decks in a draft format. You don't have to play every deck. I mean, Brad loves Innistrad. Brad, how many times did you play the full-out Spider Spawning deck?
Once.
Yeah, it's a complicated deck, right? The Burning Vengeance deck.
Never played that one.
It's a complicated deck.
I played Werewolves a lot, and nobody seemed to draft those.
Yeah, so it's a good deck. So. But the fact matters, you didn't have to play this weird deck that required you knowing the format to be successful.
No, you could just take good creatures and win.
And this set has that. There are weird decks in this.
And can you even play Daybreak Coronet?
No, not really.
I mean, is there any other enchantment you can put on a creature? I hadn't seen one.
I don't think so.
I like they reprinted Raise the Alarm though.
Let's see. Let's look for cards to go with that. I don't think there is. I think you're right. I think there's literally not another card.
I mean, there's a Pillory and stuff, but there's no, like, I enchant my creature, it gets better, I put Daybreak Coronet on it. I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
I don't like when they print, maybe I'm missing something, but I don't like when they print cards that just need to be reprinted in sets. They should put those in extra product that I could just buy if I want that product.
This is close to extra product. It's unfortunate that there's some amount of people that are going to first pick that card, assuming they can build a deck around it, and they can't.
Well, not to mention it's worth a pretty good amount of money.
This is why they're reprinting it.
Yeah, but they should have put it in a set where they put support in for it. Where they
like a Commander product.
Yeah, or they could have put it in here, but put 6 or 8 enchantments that are decent.
I think the problem is the risk of enchantments is too great. I think that deck would be too bad. Is the reason that isn't citing. There's Splinter Twin.
So basically they were like, well, then I'm going to Daybreak Coronet it, so I don't want to tap it to Splinter Twin, though. There's one more aura that's good with it. It has haste and can't block.
Yeah. Bloodshot Trainee is also pretty poor then, because that means it only works with a couple cards. But yeah. Okay, so there's one.
I mean, that they just kind of like shoehorned it in there because it needed to be reprinted, but they could have made a supplemental product that I could just buy, where I knew I was getting 2 of them or something, or knew I was getting all 4 of them for that matter. Who cares?
I definitely agree with you there.
That just seems like a really bad thing to put in this set.
It's bad design. I don't like it. They wanted to make. They would probably make more money from putting in a supplemental set, though.
But they probably would.
What's the price on a Daybreak Coronet?
I don't know.
Let's look up a Daybreak Coronet. So let's say that they opened, as they can do. Okay, on paper, It is $30. So they made a new Planeswalker versus kind of whatever, and one of the colors is like white and something else, and it's enchantment based.
Yeah.
And that's it.
They could put. Is there an enchantment based Planeswalker they could have put there?
Even if they don't,
they could have printed a new one. Who cares?
They could put in a Johnny that costs 3 aggressive Johnny. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. But anyway, so instead they just shoved it in this product, and I'm going to open it, and I'm going to say, well, it's worth $30. I guess I have to pick it, and I'm not going to play it because there's one other card that's an uncommon that I can play it with. Otherwise, I can't play it. Literally can't play it. So I think that was just poor design.
That was, and that stands out as a very poor spot there, too. And I think there's other cards. Like, you're never going to first pick a Thunderblast. Now, your point's a lot more valid in that there's a lot of players that will pick that card assuming you can build a deck around it. That would love to.
Why would they put it in a set when there's one other card that goes with it? I mean, how many other decks, or how many other cards only have one other card that go with it? With that other enchantment theme guy, right? And then, I mean, there's a marginal amount of 5-color stuff, but unless you just get a bunch of bombs and a bunch of those lands, I don't see playing 5-color either.
Well,
I mean, maybe it's a lot more accessible to play 5-color, but you're definitely not playing Daybreak Coronet. So,
well, the good news for 5 colors, all of these cards go in 5-color. This goes in 5-color. Like, there's just enough. I guess we need to look at the support for 5-color, and the support for 5-color is going to come from.
Well, there's Noble Hierarch.
Other than the direct cards, like we saw 4 cards that directly go for 5-color, like All Sun's Dawns and the red cards.
Oh yeah, any of the domain cards.
But your base green, so you're playing Primeval Titan, Hierarch.
But at the point where I first pick a Primeval Titan, do I just want to go green beatdown, or do I want to go 5-color?
It depends on what opens.
I mean,
there are 3. Rampant Growth is a common, so that will mean that
that's good.
Yeah, it is. It means you'll get them easily, and your uncommon lands. So it won't be too hard.
And there's a lot of Eldrazi that'll give you colorless creatures that you can sack to fill in kind of other stuff, but not really help you with your 5-color theme. Like, helps you play your big creatures, but not your big multicolor creatures.
Oh, you also have the colorless card that taps for any color. So we have that. Vox Opal's not playable in that deck. It is playable in the 5-color artifact deck. It's not playable in the 5-color base green deck.
Yeah.
Alloy Mirror is as well. So you do have
and there's a
support, and you have a Wayfarer's Bauble. Yeah. Okay, so you have enough.
Yeah, there's enough stuff to do it. I just don't know if that's going to be your most powerful deck, or should I take stuff that's just good all the time?
It'll be interesting. I mean, it's hard to say. There's not that much powerful removal. Let's go ahead and count the removal that's at uncommon or down, and that'll kind of give us a feel for how good the format is.
There's probably about 5 or 6 of them that are decent.
All right. So first of all, we have.
I mean, you have that whole cycle of the color hate,
but that's not all removal.
Oh, not all of it's removal.
Only Celestial Purge and Deathmark is removal.
Oh.
So between the 2 of them, that's probably 1 piece really right there. 2 pieces with the Oblivion Ring, 3 pieces with Arrest.
Otherworldly Journey, not
4
really
piece with Sunland. It's actually there to protect you from removal more so than to use as removal. 4. Oh my gosh, I'm bad. There we go. Let's use the home button. So we've got 4 pieces that are pretty solid there.
Yep.
I don't think there's going to be much in blue, which is fine. That's not blue strong. I expect to see 1. I think it's just the Narcolepsy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is great. 1 is exactly.
Vapor Snag is kind of tempo.
Well, there's tempo cards, but just a removal, like hard.
And then
removal.
there's a lot of them in black. So
we had 4 white ones. We'll probably have 5 black ones. At common, we've got the Deathmark, Dismember being the premium one. This goes in every color. Spread the Sickness as the 3rd one. This used to be a common. It's interesting that they moved it up. So it's 3.
Yeah, you said a very interesting point that Dismember goes in every color, so it's probably going to be almost a first pick.
I would
for
first pick
almost everybody.
We compared the first picks with that.
Yeah, there's very few cards that you would pick over that. No matter what color you're in, no matter when it comes.
Yeah.
So
I don't consider Click necessarily as removal because it has to block to get there. It can be closer if you want to trade that block for it, but taking the card out of their hand for another card doesn't get rid of a creature on board. So we're talking about on board cards. Click is closer than most other creatures in that it does have flash. We've got Dismember, Bone Splitter. So it looks like we have five counting the Nameless Inversion, not counting Instill Infection, which is a bonus removal. There's bonus removal for the black-red, or black-blue, whatever deck. Let's see.
Comet Storm is rare.
And Banefire is rare. So we've got Lightning Bolt, Spite Bellows, Tribal Flames.
Smash Smithereens just for artifacts.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad they reprinted it in this set.
Gut Shot, I think I would count. Burst Lightning and Firefall. So red has the most amount of removal, but a lot of it's damage conditional.
So let's see, what else do we got?
Stud. What do you mean by Dark Confluence done as removal? It's not removal per se. It's actually not very good first pick either. It's hard to build a deck around. And now green won't have a lot of removal, which is fine.
We'll be picking it for money, but we won't be picking it because, like if I were in a huge tournament.
Right. Some of you guys might be going to the Modern Masters Las Vegas tournament and looking over this set. Yeah, green doesn't have any removal, but that's fine. Green's not supposed to really. We have combat tricks like Vines of Vastwood.
Yeah.
And
I like Vines of Vastwood being reprinted.
Mutagenic Growth, and both of those cards will get you quite a
they
bit.
printed Scatter the Seeds.
It's support for that green-white deck.
That's pretty good. All right.
Yeah, no. We Dude, we're going to post this in a day or two. It'll be at YouTube at Mobius Pick, and we covered all the cards. So, if you're picking based on value, you just pick the card that costs the most, because you're not going to have multiple cards that cost the same amount, right? You don't have to worry about that. But if you're picking cards based on first pick, we kind of went back and said which cards we would pick Dismember versus this card in each color.
There's very few.
Very few. I would actually pick Dismember over the bounce lands, and I would pick the bounce lands over the on-color removal. That's where I'm at. I think Brad's at picking all good removal over bounce lands.
Yeah, as long as I'm already in that color.
This is your first pick. This is your first pick.
Oh, first pick?
So you see a bounce land and a lightning bolt.
So the first time I draft this, I'm definitely going to take the removal. After I draft it a few times, if I get the chance to, because, there's no telling how much these drafts are going to be, I would probably know at that point if it's worth taking the bounce land or the removal. From playing, basically. So...
Yeah, brother. They did take out. In fact, you can see the Wither card there. They took Infect out because it was too strong. It's too aggressive. It's a very linear format, a very linear on rails kind of a strategy that presses forward. And the fixing isn't why we're taking the bounce lands. That is an important part. It's because it represents extra cards. I said this earlier, and I'll say it again. You have a 7-card hand. It's a land, a bounce land, and 5 spells. That hand is actually a 3-land, 5 spell hand. That's a great hand. Your bounce lands are an automatic 2-for-1. You know what the 2-for-1 is. It's always 2 lands for 1. There's nothing in this entire set that kills these lands outside of Wildfire.
And the one that kills a creature also, whatever that is.
$30 drafts all weekend long.
Ball.
Yeah. Wrecking Ball. And you will Wrecking Ball some bounce lands. But the fact of the matter is, the only time I really Wrecking Ball bounce lands is if I'm ahead on board and I'm beaten down. I would usually rather save that for creatures.
Yeah, me too.
So when you're thinking about your bounce lands, rate them higher than you're currently rating them. I'm rating bounce lands as one of the most first pickable cards in the set. In original Ravnica, people would pick bounce lands over most other cards just because you needed them so much, and they were commons. The fact that they're uncommons means they're going to be a lot harder to come across. This format's not blazingly fast, so things like these are stronger. If you do look at a pack and it looks more aggressive, right? If you want to be in a more aggressive card and you pick your Lightning Bolt over it, you don't have to prioritize that pack 2 one quite as high. You might just take your next Lightning Bolt because you're more aggressive. But in mid-range and control drafts, your bounce lands are going to be one of the most important cards in your deck, and even more so, one of the best cards to draw all the way until the late game. Into the late game, obviously, your bounce lands aren't doing much more than anything else. They're setting you a land up ahead, sure, but that 2-for-1 means a lot less when it's 2 lands. But in the early stages of the game, knowing that one card functionally exists as a free 2 mana, or as a free 2 lands for 1 slot is very powerful. And that's what this card's representing. It's a divination that costs 0 that says, tap all the mana you have. Or you can't cast a spell this turn. It doesn't even say that because it changes.
I mean, it's 2 lands in 1. I mean,
it's 2 lands.
With only drawing 1 spell. So, they're good, but the first time I draft this, I'm definitely going to take the removal over them just because I don't know how much they matter in this particular format.
And I could be wrong. There's a chance that they're not as good as they were in the Ravnica sets because the color fixing means less.
And we just hope it doesn't come up like that. It's just good card, good card, good card, obvious picks all the time. So.
Yeah, when we do our drafts, depending on who's leading, we'll make that decision based on whether we're taking that or not. Yeah. But you can go back and see what we said we would pick over that. Usually you're not picking lands very highly. Most lands don't do much. I don't really... Did you guys have any questions? I think we're about to call it up. We kind of covered all this stuff, and we'll be posting later today or tomorrow at Mobius Pick YouTube, right?
Yep.
And it will kind of review all this stuff. It'll be separate from the Tempest Remastered draft that we threw down in. You can see some pretty cool plays there. We won't try to spoil too terribly
sad beats
much.
at the end.
Yeah, maybe they're happy beats. Maybe we win.
Uh-huh.
Keep their hopes up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, hopes up. All right, thank you everyone for tuning in.
All right, so Brother right here is telling us that the archetypes feel so fragile. Brother, if you remember Modern Masters 1, we talked about this before as well. The archetypes were on rails. They were extremely powerful, but you needed to commit 100%, which sometimes was bad because me and Brad would sit next to each other, and we would both pick Kiki Jiki because we opened 2 Kiki Jikis.
I mean, yeah, we both start the same archetype or whatever, and then we'd both just be out.
But the problem is, if we go to change, because of the power of the other archetypes, we might be being forced out anyway. It might be too late. It was very on rails, high power, high push. I think with this set, there's a lot more flexibility. I think you can play any 2-color combination, maybe not to the same level of success, but they're all doable. In the other set, that was usually not the case. You had to hit up some weird combinations to play certain 2 colors, and they just never worked out how you wanted it to. Like, how often did you play black red in the last set?
I don't think I ever played that one.
Yeah, it just didn't work. Sometimes it did. Sometimes no one's playing those. You just made a good deck, but often you just lose to these way more powerful decks in the later rounds. I don't think there's any really, really powerful decks here that are obscene easily outside of the Metalcraft deck. I feel like the Metalcraft deck will be the deck that everyone's gunning down quickly, that'll be picked highly, and that you have to decide if you have the if it's open enough to go into. I think it's the most powerful and the most deep.
Yeah. I guess people are lucky that the only real Metalcraft card that's worth any money is Mox Opal. So you may not get that, but you probably get most of the other Metalcraft stuff. Because, if you're trying to build a deck for Elesh Norn, people are just going to take that because it's worth money. There's probably other examples of this. If you're building the Metalcraft deck, Tezzeret's not going to come to you because it's worth money.
Yeah, brother, there was the white-blue artifact deck. I mean, in the first set, and it's here too, it's Metalcraft, but every time you played the Metalcraft or the Affinity deck in the first set, it was just a deck splashing for some blue and white cards. It was mostly just artifacts. You couldn't just play a blue and white deck. You had to play the on-rails version of that deck. And that's what we're talking about. Here you can probably just play a blue and white deck. Because the other cards are weaker, your more options are open, right? Just like when you play older formats, right? If you play Vintage or Legacy, you really don't have as much room to brew as you would think because of the power level of the format dictates that you need to be able to answer these things and do very proactive things.
Yep.
very quickly. You have a short clock to interact. So the weaker the format, the more options you have usually if they're supported. And it looks like with the mana we have and the overall power of each card, right? Especially green. I feel like I could play green with anything.
Yeah. The 5-color deck has a few cards too that it will not get because no one's passing Noble Hierarch basically. So, but the Metalcraft only has the 1 card, so
Yeah. All right.
people aren't going to be incidentally stepping on your toes. Anyway, I think that's it for today. Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah. We'll see you guys next week, hopefully. See you guys soon.